Today, we celebrate Lent. Lent comes from the Anglo-Saxon word lengthen, which means lengthen. Sounds like it, doesn't it? It refers to the lengthening of days of spring. The 40 days of Lent represent a time of completion. Reminiscent of the Hebrew scriptures, when Moses and Elijah fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and when the Israel people, the nation of Israel, spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness trying to get to the promised land. Also, we're told that Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, enduring temptations from Satan and preparing to do his ministry. It's interesting that right after Jesus was blessed by John the Baptist, he then was ushered by God and Spirit and angels into the wilderness to be tempted. Isn't that always the way? When we feel so full of Spirit, our ego sometimes has a field day. And this is what the temptation of Jesus represents. The tempter is that part of our mind that believes that the guises of materialism, the power of the world, is greater than the power of good, of God, of love. So the first temptation that comes to Jesus is, hey, if you're the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. And Jesus says, no, because it's written that I'm not supposed to live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Not you, Satan. Not my negative, critical, self-important mind, but on my humble heart. So the first temptation is fasting on vainglory, fasting on our own limited power and belief that that's all there is, and feasting on this reality that there is more than the material, more than the body, more than this world that we see with our physical eyes. So then the devil takes him again and says, if you're the Son of God, then just throw yourself down, kill yourself. For it's written, he'll command his angels concerning you, and they'll lift their hands to save you. You won't even strike your foot on a stone. And Jesus says to him, it is written, don't put the Lord your God to the test. The ego would like to have us believe that no matter what we do, God's going to save us. And there are a lot of jokes about that, right? Where, some man is drowning and God sends a boat, but he tells the boat, yeah, no, don't worry about it. God's going to save me. And then, God sends, a flotation device, hold on to this, we'll pull you in. Oh, no, God's going to save me, and then he sends a helicopter, with a rope to save him. And the guy's, no, I'm fine. God's going to save me. So he drowns and gets to the pearly gates and says, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you a boat, I sent you flotation devices, and I sent you a helicopter, So this idea, that we're special, and we don't have to work at anything. We fast on those ideas, and we feast on our ability to craft our life, our unlimited potential to do good and rely on universal love that's always there, always. Unmerited divine assistance is always there. And then the devil takes him to this high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor, and says, I'll give you all of this, castles and diamonds and all the stuff of life, if you'll just bow down and worship me. And Jesus says, get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve the good. So we fast on greed. We feast on gratitude for what we have. We fast on that we are lacking anything outside ourselves. We feast on being enough, on having enough. And then the devil leaves him after that third denial, and angels do come and attend him. So the overall message of the temptation is be vigilant in denying what is not the truth of your being. Over and over and over again in body, mind, and spirit. And then angels, epiphanies, revelations will come. The Course in Miracles says, watch your mind, for the temptations of the ego, do not be deceived by it. It offers you nothing. When you've given up this voluntary dispiriting, isn't that a great phrase? Voluntary dispiriting. You know, you are dispiriting yourself. You are fatiguing yourself. It says when you give up and see how your mind can focus on what's good and rise above fatigue, that's when you heal. It's exhausting to hold those beliefs. And the Course says you're not sufficiently vigilant against the demands of the ego yet, but one day you will disengage yourself. Lent, that period of time to Easter, like the coronavirus, can remind us that a time of hibernation is when the caterpillar goes into its cocoon to get strong and get its wings. We can have a new bent on Lent and a new way of seeing this forced isolation by using the time to release what no longer serves us and wake up to our innate power to become stronger in consciousness, to become renewed in spirit, and to be transformed. This is how we do Lent. We feast on what's positive, what's beneficial in our lives, and we fast on beating ourselves up for what we haven't done in the past, or berating ourselves for what we did do, the mistakes we've made. Lent, like spring, is a good time for composting, for preparing the soil of our own mind for the blossoming of all that's good. I don't know if you heard the moaning and the crying in the background, but Lola was having a bad dream, so I had to wake her up. That's just like us. Sometimes it's just a bad dream. Myrtle Fillmore said this: show me a family where praise and thanksgiving becomes a habit, and I'll show you a healthy, harmonious, and prosperous household. Show me the seeds you sow and the thoughts you think, and I can foretell the manner of your harvest. For it's the same in the mind world as it is in our soil world. Many of you heard a little bit about Lola's escapades last week, about how she was taken from my front yard. She didn't even have her collar on. She just slipped out while my friend Ray was scraping the paint off the little peephole on the front door, and he didn't even notice she was out. And person, a good Samaritan, thought she was lost, put her in her car and took her 2.5 miles away. And for 2.5 hours, I was in mental anguish. As we were all looking for her, I lost my mind. I had such a broken heart that my fears and my worries of Lola being gone, because I knew she wasn't in the neighborhood. I knew she wouldn't not come being called. I knew she had been taken, and I was bereft. Losing my mind for 2.5 hours did not help Lola. She was fine. She was in a neighbor's backyard playing with their dog, well cared for. Brain to focus for 24 hours. And I felt like someone had run me over with a truck. It made me realize how far I have to go. Because chronic negative emotions can be debilitating. And that was just 2.5 hours worth of chronic negative fear-based worry. But think about that. We are constantly making ourselves what we are. We are not limited by God's will, heredity, our DNA, the environment, circumstances, the coronavirus, or fate, but by our own consciousness. Right minds lead to right brains, lead to healthy bodies, lead to positive emotions and actions, and vice versa. That's what I really want you to hear. It's not one-dimensional. There is no one-directional cause-effect relationship. Everything works both ways. We are making a cosmic leap in consciousness right now to this multi-dimensional thinking of life. We have to learn to think and live systemically. For example, to understand that eating food that is bad for you or breathing toxic air will make it more difficult for your brain to think straight. Not thinking consciously, not doing prayer, affirmation, meditation will make it easier for you to fall into depression and eat bad food, which will cause you to be depressed, right? So it's connected. Habitually making choices in one area of your life to do something that is negative for your life force affects all other areas of your life, because life is a system and it's a multi-dimensional challenge. Thoughts held in mind reproduce after their kind. That's a unity spiritual principle. It's like a magnet, right? You think one way and it draws to itself those kinds of thoughts. And we now know through scientific evidence that thoughts held in mind reproduce after their kind and form tracks, actual tracks in your brain, actual synaptic connections that make it easier for you to think that way the next time. Chronic anger, chronic fear is a train wreck of your brain. Think about it. Your thoughts and feelings form biochemical pathways in your brain and body. for either neurogenesis, meaning birth of new brain cells, because you're happy, joyous, and free, or kill your brain cells, destroy your biology through chronic stress, through biochemical pathways that hurt you because of what you think and do. We are constantly creating our brains and bodies with our habitual states of mind and emotion. We give birth to new brain cells every moment, and we kill our own brain cells by the thoughts and the emotions we habitually feel. This is important to know. It's a good information. It's one of the most important dimensions of reality that we're coming to realize right now. But it isn't the whole picture either, because the brain is not the mind. It's just the body. We're more than a body. In The Universe is Calling, Eric Butterworth says, you have to go beyond the words. You have to just release yourself to the universe that's calling you and go to the inner wellspring of living water. Going beyond words to vibration, he says, the energy that connects us all in the universe, the one song, singing into expression many individualized notes like a symphony. We are inextricably linked to one another and to all these multifaceted dimensions that co-create our reality of life. In the East, in the Siddha tradition, they say this: good company, great resolve, lead to glorious fulfillment. Good company, great resolve, lead to glorious fulfillment. And Guru Mai Chidvilasananda, a great sage living in our time, said, I'm not talking about your friends. When I say good company, I'm not talking about the people, the social networks in your life. I'm talking about your own mind. What kind of company are you keeping in your own thought world? That's your good company. Your fear and your negativity is your bad company. Your positive thoughts are your good company. She says, make the mind your friend. Love your body. Feed it well. Honor your heart and bless it. Take good care of your whole being as a good friend would. Look after your mind like a miser takes care of each little penny he has. Notice every thought, Charles Fillmore used to say, like a chemist watches his solution. Do not let your mind wander off among all kinds of thoughts and worries. Keep it calm, serene, and focused. So in closing now, let's feast on some affirmative thoughts together. And then we'll hear Larry's amazing song, This Is How We Do Lent. So repeat after me. I fast from thoughts of illness.
I fast from thoughts of illness.
I release all thoughts and feelings that keep me from knowing my healing power. I release all thoughts and feelings that keep me from knowing my healing power.
Yes.
I feast on thoughts of health. I feast on thoughts of health. I feast on the renewing, restoring, energizing power of God. I feast on the renewing, restoring, energizing power of God. Repeat this. God's healing love. Say that. God's healing love is in every organ, in every tissue, in every muscle, in every bone, and in every cell of my body. God's healing love is everywhere in me. And this is a kind of all-encompassing saying that many of my teachers taught us to say every day. So here it is. Every day, in every way, I am becoming happier, healthier, and more vitally alive. Let's do that 3 times. Every day, in every way, I am becoming happier, healthier, and more vitally alive. One more time. Every day, in every way, I am becoming happier, healthier, and more vitally alive. This is how we do Lent.
Feasting on happiness, feasting on joy, feasting on happiness, feasting on joy. This is how we do Lent. 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 Do you hear it? Stop and listen to it. Do you hear it? The little voice within your soul. Do you hear it? Listen to the Spirit. Do you hear it? Tells you all you need to know. This is how we do Lent. This is how we do Lent. It'll tell you, listen to the Spirit. It'll tell you, stop and listen, you can hear it speak. It'll tell you, listen to the Spirit. It'll tell you what to let go and what to keep. This is how we do Lent. This is how we do Lent.
Fasting on bitterness,
Feasting on mercy,
fasting on suspicion,
feasting on the truth.
I'm fasting on depression, depression.
I'm feasting on hope,
Fasting on anxiety,
feasting on joy. This is how we do Lent. 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 Do you hear it? Listen to the Spirit. Do you hear it? Stop and listen, you can hear it speak. It will tell you, listen to the Spirit. It'll tell you what to let go and what to keep. feasting on joy, feasting on happiness, feasting on joy. This is how we do Lent. This is how we do Lent. This is how we do Lent. This is how we do Lent.
Yay! Thank you so much. Love that song. So grateful to have you with us today. Such an inspiration. Thank you so much.